Jacqueline Wilson is the reason I write. She's the reason I fell in love with reading, and I've read pretty much everything she's ever written, including Love Lessons, which, when it came out, I think I would have been about 14 or 15. And really, the target age for this book, because Love Lessons is one of her few more grown up and mature books. It's certainly not aimed at the younger readers who read things like Sleepovers and The Cat Mummy and The Suitcase Kid. This is definitely a much more mature book. I can confirm, having just skimmed down the Amazon page, it was released in 2006. I was 14, which is the same age as the protagonist. And I will say, without question, when I read this, I was the target audience. I loved it. I loved every second of it, and to the point where I often think of this book when I'm thinking about Wilson's stories. But looking at it now as an adult, it's quite a concern that this was actually published with the ending that it had. So there will be some spoilers in a couple of minutes, but I'll just tell you what the book's about first of all, in case you haven't read it. So I'm going to read the description from Amazon. The description says, 14-year-old Prue and her sister Grace have been educated at home by their controlling, super strict father all their lives. Forced to wear mum's odd handmade garments and forbidden from reading teenage magazines, they know they're very different to normal girls. But when Dad has a stroke and ends up in hospital, unable to move or speak, Prue suddenly discovers what it's like to have a little freedom. Sent to a real school for the first time, Prue struggles to fit in. The only person she can talk to is her kindly, young and handsome art teacher, Rax. They quickly bond, and Prue feels more and more drawn to him. As her feelings grow stronger, she begins to realise that he might feel the same way about her, but nothing could ever happen between them. Could it? Straight away, alarm bells are ringing. Now, at the beginning, the first bit there about how her father was very strict, she never had a proper upbringing, she couldn't do things normal teenagers could. It's a great moral for adults, because it means that once your teenager does finally get let loose, there could be some really bad judgments made. But the odds of the adult reading this novel to get those morals are not that high. Then the second bit, and this is where there will be some spoilers from now, not many, but some. Prue, a 14-year-old, gets a crush on her art teacher. Fine, I had crushes on teachers. Most people crush on at least one of their teachers at some point. But the fact that she thinks that Rax could also feel the same way about her and could reciprocate those feelings is dangerous, because she acts on these feelings and then those feelings are reciprocated, and suddenly this 14-year-old girl is having an affair with her art teacher, and it's shocking. Now, on the one hand, that does happen. There are teachers, male and female, who get into relationships with underage students. So you could argue that the book is tackling an important issue, and as I said, spoiler, with the ending of it, Prue is expelled, various things happen to her to make sure that she knows that she has done wrong. And that's fine, there's a lesson there, don't do it, because it's not good. But in the real world, that's not usually what happens. When a minor is in a relationship, whether or not they're having sex or they're just kissing or even just holding hands and being intimate, the 14-year-old, because they're a minor and underage, they're usually seen as a victim, even if they are the one who made the initial move, because the adult, they're seen as a predator. And this teacher really does not get his comeuppance, and that's to say it mildly. Like, if she was 16, yeah, I could probably understand, because she's of age, even though the teacher still should not be doing that. But because she's a minor, really, this is, pedophilic. It's awful. And the outcome with the teacher is just not what would happen in real life. And there'd be a lot more input from social workers, and, the parents would be assessed, and the teacher would lose his job, and it's not realistic. And, okay, so one could argue it's a book for a 14-year-old. It doesn't have to be that realistic. But, I mean, putting a child into foster care or something would be a pretty good way to scare the reader into not doing this kind of thing. So I'm not sure. And as I said, I love Jacqueline Wilson with an enormous passion. She's the reason I write. I love her and I owe her everything. But I'm not sure what she was trying to do with this book or what her intended message was. Because, maybe behind the scenes the teacher gets some problems and gets the punishment he deserves. But it's, for Prue, for the 14-year-old, it's quite shocking and not very realistic. And I won't say it encourages teenagers to act on their crushes and try and flirt with their teachers and trying to coax them into relationships. I mean, even if they did do that, the teacher should say no. But let's be honest, a lot of the time this does actually happen in the real world. So it's very confusing with the message it's sending to the reader. It's not realistic, and it's a little bit damaging. I will be honest though. If I just have a quick look at the reviews on Amazon are quite mixed. It's got an overall 4 star. People are saying terribly unrealistic. It has so much backlash. But there were a lot of 5 stars for it, and at the time I would have given it a 5 star. There are some 1 stars in German as well. I can't read those. Somebody's saying, I do not recommend this book for children under 18. Somebody's left a review from a 12-year-old's perspective, and it's 5 star. So, what can we do? Nothing. I would never recommend this. If I ever had a child in the future, I might say, read this, but I'm going to tell you why it's all wrong. But I don't know, it's hard because, as I said, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Maybe the backlash is why Wilson has not, since this book, as far as I can recall, attempted to write a more adult novel. Her latest one, Love, Frankie, might be similar in tone, but certainly not like this. If you've read it, let me know what you think, because I'd really like to know if it's something that you agreed with at the time when you read it. If you're a parent, what do you think of it? Would you let your child read this? Did you let your child read this? I mean, if you're the target audience, if your child is 14, you're not really going to have that much control over their reading materials. So it's a bit confusing and very controversial, and I absolutely loved it. But looking back at it now, I just can't believe it ever got to the publishing stage. I can't believe nobody said, hang on, this isn't quite right. But yeah, Love Lessons, target audience, ticks the right boxes. Just morally, it's a little bit awkward.